What was help me out, what was the episode where I was on trial with the Amazons? Well, that was all the episodes. But specifically, I had my new cool green outfit. And I was walking through the woods, and all of a sudden which one was it? I think it was. Okay, Path of Vengeance. So everybody knows about the breakaway staffs, or there's breakaway chairs, or whatever you're using when you're in a fight. So I'm in the trial, and it's this big circular thing. We're surrounded by all of the Amazon queens. I'm in the middle, handcuffed, and Renee is there at my side. This is right before the big boxing match. And, she's there defending me as an Amazon queen herself, trying to work through all of the details and get me out of there. So it's time to throw down, and she's got this staff. And if she breaks the staff, it means that she is putting herself up in my place, and she's going to fight another Amazon queen. Hence, Chanina Jolson, Varia. Yes, woohoo, Chanina. So we're in the middle of this take. And in a rehearsal, you never ever use the breakaways because they only have a couple of them. So you'd be screwed. You only have one or two to actually break during the scene. So it's very dramatic. Renee has her staff. She's supposed to grab it at the appropriate time and break it over her knee. So the appropriate time comes. My life is in the balance. The drama is high. She grabs the staff. Nothing happens. So she tries it again. Nothing happens. So I come over. We're both trying. Nothing happens. So we set it down and we're trying to break it with our feet. Not a thing. At this point, we're probably laughing so hard that we're crying. It was hilarious. Needless to say, this did not make the final cut. But it was really good for us. And of course, they made the breakaway much easier after that. Woo! That was a good one, though. So my first day on set, my first scenes, in fact, my first week, I worked almost exclusively with Kevin, which was great. He made me so comfortable. He's so funny. He was just the most warm, caring, but funny guy. And it was very stressful. My very first day, I had one of my biggest fight scenes that I had been prepping for a couple of days. They were running so far behind. So it was the very end of the day, and they were losing light. And I had to get this fight scene, then go immediately into this make-out scene with Kevin, immediately into the special effects shot with Kevin. All of this is new to me. They're so running out of time. They had smoke and fire and horses. There were about 100 extras in this shot. It was incredible. And I was definitely overwhelmed. I mean, I was stressed out and concerned, and Kevin was just so great, so helpful, and just funny. I mean, just kept breaking the tension again and again, and was so, there with advice if I wanted it, or just purely support, which was great. And that was my first week, really. In the very first episode, I spent a lot of time with him. Our characters were very much together. And it was only my 6th or 7th day of work that I actually worked with Lucy and some of the other cast members. And by that time, I'm really grateful that it worked out that way, because I felt so much more on my feet and in charge of the character, and that I just knew the routine. So by the time even more people were involved, I was an old pro. Or at least a little better off than I was a few days prior.
I had another question about Path of Vengeance. The one where the Amazons, they've got you in the circle and they have that thing around your neck. And that was a very convincing scene, because I'm always going, God, how do they do that without hurting you? Or how do they shoot that scene?
Right. Yes. I don't know what you would call that contraption that the props guy came up with. The day before, I was supposed to have been burnt at the stake. But they thought that this was somehow weirdly too symbolic or something, so they asked the prop people to come up with an alternative that would fit the Amazons and be still humiliating and scary for me and all of that stuff. So I walk on set to find the dog collar from hell that I'm supposed to deal with. Now, granted, I mean, all of that stuff, it's so fun when you have to play scenes like that. As long as you can get over the immediate weirdness, it's actually so much fun, because I'm entirely in charge. what they do is all of those particular Amazons were stunt girls, and they would just hold on to the ropes that were attached to it, and I would be the one that moved, and they would simply pick up the slack. So I was the one who was acting like, oh my God, my life's in danger. And, they just went along with it and made me look good. But, I mean, let's also review that one, because this is so funny too. Now, granted, that thing looks scary. It's bizarre. But really, why is a collar with spikes pointing out? Why is that hard for me to deal with? So it's kind of funny. But then, the prop guy was like, well, you can't see them, but you're supposed to get that there's spikes on the inside too. That's why it hurts so bad when they pull you. And I was like, okay, I'll deal with that. And then I love it afterwards. I just have a couple light bruises, just some little light bruising. Not a problem. Fighting was definitely difficult to learn. I picked up choreography very quickly because I'd been a dancer for years and years. What took me so long was actually, I was so afraid I would hurt someone. So afraid of that. And because of it, my first few days of fighting when I was just learning everything, I looked horrible because it didn't look believable at all. And then one day, we were in the middle of this fight, and Lucy stunt double, actually, she miscalculated and hit me on the leg with her sword. I mean, hit me full force. And I thought, if I can take it, so can she. And it was great, because then I just realized that that was the worst that it basically is going to happen. And I had a great bruise that I was really proud of, but they're so careful that worst case scenario, a bruise is what you're going to get. And they're into it. That's what their job is. And I just learned right then and there that to make it look real, you've got to put some effort behind it. So that changed everything. And from then on, I loved fighting, just loved it. This is back in the day when, 25 years had passed. So suddenly Ted was like 700 years old. And this was during the summer, or the summer there. And the heat he had to get up so early to put all of this prosthetic makeup on. But the sun would make the makeup melt. So it was horrible, and it had fumes, and I mean, truly, he had the worst job at that point. But it was so much all the time, and combine that with the melting and the fumes and everything else, and the fact that he couldn't really wear his glasses, and it was really difficult to put contacts in, etc. and so forth, he basically couldn't see. So it came time for him to run towards me in that scene, and he would just fall like 4 feet before he ever got to me. We did that scene so many times. He turns around, and it's supposed to be all dramatic, and psh, down goes Ted. So finally, the director had us get a little bit closer so that if he made it anywhere in my vicinity, we could just fake it. That somehow the two of us would make it work. Just the world of voiceovers in general is a completely new thing for me that I got into this year. But amazingly enough, my experience on Xena has helped me tremendously, because I didn't know what I was walking into. I'm not someone who really does character voices, although I give each of my own characters their own distinctive personality traits and even voices sometimes, but I don't do cartoons and things like that, so I wasn't sure what I was getting into. To be honest, all of the looping, the endless hours of looping that I had to do for Xena just paid off tremendously, because I know how to work in a booth. I know the range of my voice, and what I can do, and what I can do to change it when they're looking for something else that's more specific. But it's great. I mean, the best voiceover actors, the best voiceover jobs are when you get into it. It's not just your voice. Even though you're not on camera, you're still moving to a certain extent and getting into it and physically trying to, embody that person so that it feels appropriate for what you're doing. But it's so much fun. It is so much fun to do. And it's quite quick. It's much faster than looping, generally speaking. It's very specific. They know exactly what they want, down to, please say this 3/4 of a second faster. So you just have to try. Some people are brilliant at that. I'm still learning that part of it. But it's been so much fun. The video games have been a blast. Commercials are fun. And I'm pursuing cartoons and things like that. So yeah, it's great stuff. I love it.